folks, it's Mary, aka MercyTriumphs, and this is my channel, Slow Crochet. This is episode 019. Today I'm going to be talking about current crochet works in progress, finished objects, and even a tiny little yarn haul. Before I do anything else, I want to say a big thank you to those of you who have subscribed recently. I've hit over 200 subscribers, and to me, that's amazing. I am a little bit of nobody sitting in the middle of Tennessee, just wanting to share my heart and have a good time just rambling on about things that make my heart sing. I'm having a lot of fun putting these videos together and connecting with y'all and providing hopefully the kind of thing that I like to see, and hopefully you like it too. So let me get into, first of all, some of my crocheted finished objects. So the first thing is something that I started last week, and it is a very thin little shawl, a little neckerchief, if you will. So I ended up actually going with my family to JoAnn's, and while I was there, I was looking at some of the yarn, and I was able to identify this as a Croy Socks yarn. And so all I did for this one is I used, I believe, a size F or a G hook, and I just did one row of half double crochet and then slip stitch back the other way, and I only did back loops only. And then on one end I would always just do an extra half double crochet there at the end, so it turned into a triangle shape. And then I took out my yarn scale, and when my piece measured about the same weight as what I had left of my yarn, I started decreasing back the other way. So I believe this color is something like Cascade. I think that's the name of the color. It is lovely. It is cozy. It would work well as a head wrap. And with the little extras I had, I put on tassels. So that is one little finished object. It took a little bit of time just because of the slip stitches, but I love the look of it. And again, last week I was talking about these tiny little scarves that people are doing in crochet. And if you go on my Ravelry, or there should be a link in the description box below. There is a link to a whole bunch of patterns of a similar style of little neckerchief, little scarf that you can find on Ravelry. It is seeming to be a trend all of a sudden in crochet to take a very popular knit design and put our own spin on it in crochet. So I had to do my own, didn't follow a pattern, just kind of did as you know to do. So that's one finished object down. Another finished object is another beret. It's my green beret. I'm not a green beret, but I'm a big fan of the color green, and I'm a big fan of berets. This one is, I believe, the granny, just a granny beret, granny square beret, that's it. And this was a pattern that I found through Ravelry. It's a free pattern, but the link will be in the description. It's a very straightforward thing. It's not all your standard granny stitches, because sometimes you do 2 double crochets together and sometimes it's 3 as you work your way around. And I did wing it a little bit because I was using a larger hook than the pattern called for. But of all of my berets so far, this is definitely one of my favorites. Maybe it's just that green is just so vibrant and wonderful, and maybe it's because it's big enough I can poke it forward and give myself a little shade for my eyes and get my papal vibes, I guess, or I could slouch it to the side. Before I get to my next finished object, I'm actually going to take you back in time because the finished object that I have uses some yarn that I acquired. So let me take you back in time. Hello, people of the future. This is Mary of the past, and I'm here with a 3-skein yarn haul from JoAnn's. Now, I had not intended to go to JoAnn's, but I did see that Shannon over at Shannon Talks Yarn had just gone and had found some Ogos on clearance, and they looked really interesting to me. So when my husband told me that he needed to run an errand close by to where I knew there was a JoAnn's, I thought, hey, he could drop me off and then go on and do his thing, and then I can just wander and have some fun. So I happened to grab the app, and I saw that I had a 60% off one regular priced item, so I was set to keep it well under $10 on this little trip. Now, one of my children did come with me, and that child was looking at the yarn with me, and I taught that child to look for the red stickers because all of the clearance yarn was an additional 25% off. I know that the Ogo format is being phased out, and there was a lot of that on clearance, but to be honest, I had passed that up earlier just because the color choices were just not quite my taste. However, thank you, child. You were able to find this one for me. And this one is the Caron Simply Soft. It was original price, the clearance price was originally $2.97. And with the 25% off, it came to be $2.23. And this colorway is almond and off-white. Love those beautiful neutrals there. The other one that we found was also that $2.97, and with the 25% off, it came to $2.23. This colorway is berry blue and soft blue. So I thought that those would be something I would probably enjoy wearing and working with. Now, again, there were other colors that I liked, but just something in the combination was not quite me. And so even when I'm buying on clearance, I want to make sure that it's something that I'm going to enjoy working with and something that really speaks to my heart, and that helps me keep my yarn stash down, and it helps keep me completing the projects that I work on. Now, what did I do with my 60% off coupon? Well, y'all are going to be shocked, but I have never before bought Red Heart Super Saver stripes in retro stripe. Now, I know some people love this yarn, and I was super excited to see it at JoAnn's in quantities in the larger skeins, but I wanted to get just a small one. I do have a specific project in mind for this, and I need to do some tests on that, so that might trickle into the future, but this skein is the smaller size, or maybe the standard size, and it was originally $4.49, but with my 60% off coupon, it came to $1.80. So I'm excited to have this. It's just so cheerful, and I'm excited to get started with some of these colors too. And that's it. That's my little yarn haul. I'm going to take you back to the present now. All right, so welcome back. This finished object is actually made with some of the brown and cream Ogo. You can see how funny it looks now. But as I pulled this apart, there was the cream color on this side and then on this side. So really interesting shape. You know, working with this Ogo, I can see why. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of reasons that they've been discontinued, but it was really, I wasn't quite sure how I needed to hold it to work with the yarn. Like in a ball, it'll just unwind on in a yarn bowl, or if it's in a cake, you just pull from the center. But here, I had a hard time kind of figuring out where I wanted this to be. Now, maybe if I were sitting on a couch working, it could just sit by my side, but it was an interesting experience, let's just say. Anyhow, Caron Simply Soft, and I used some of that in this little ear warmer. So what I wanted to do was try out this beautiful stitch. Now this is a stitch pattern by, I believe, Creative Grandma, and the stitch pattern is called the Rosebud Tulip Stitch. So this is a very pale, kind of dusky pink, and with that almost that off-white kind of buttery almond color, I thought it was really beautiful. I wanted to try working with the dark green and the pink together, and then I decided rather than do an ear warmer that was just all in one piece, I thought if I had one with a button on it, then I could do a big floofy updo and then just wrap it around and not have to worry about messing up my hair. So that's how that is. I think it turned out really beautifully. I did not follow the pattern entirely, in that I used a lot more half double crochet rows in this on either side, but I think it turned out pretty effectively. I just did a buttonhole with some chain stitches and then single crochets across the top. And then I found a vintage button in kind of an olivey khaki green that I thought went fairly well with this here. So that is my third finished object. Now, just because things aren't finished doesn't mean I'm not working on them, and I do have some works in progress to show. One I put together last night. It is another hedgehog. If you saw my video yesterday about Christmas in July, hashtag Deck the Halls collab, you saw I was making hedgehogs. Well, this same pink was just a little bit that I had left over from doing the rosebuds on that ear warmer, and I wanted to make sure that it got put into a hedgehog. So why is this a work in progress? Well, we are missing a face. So once this hedgehog has a face, she shall no longer be a work in progress, but I might not talk about her again. She's a her because she's got that beautiful pink on her. She might just go straight into the I'm done and I'm not going to talk about her anymore pile. So that's one. Another work in progress is another little neckerchief. So this is the Lisa stitch. It is alternating single crochets and half double crochets, and I'm doing the same pattern as I did in my other kind of mini shawlette neckerchief, except instead of doing slip stitches across one way, I'm only increasing one row and then I'm just doing the opposite the other way, back the other way. Does that make sense? I'm always stacking a single crochet on top of a half double, and then I'm always stacking a half double on top of a single, and then just in that last stitch I'm adding one. I'm sure if it were written out in like a chart form, it would be very intuitive, and hopefully you can see how regular and wonderful that is. This is a mystery acrylic cake, and I am using a size 5mm crochet hook, a size H hook on that. This is a wonderful mindless project. I started this yesterday in church. And yes, I was paying attention to the sermon, but it was so nice to just have something I could work on as I was listening. So that's going to come together quickly, and I really like it so far. But to be fair, I don't know that I'm going to keep this one necessarily. This one might go into my donate pile, but we'll see. I'm enjoying working on it. Another work in progress I have is a pattern called the Procella Shawl by Joy of Motion Crochet. Now, I love her designs, and I have not really used them maybe ever. So I was thinking of what was I going to do with my 2 frogged balls of Chloe yarn that was so beautiful and that I played yarn chicken with, and I didn't win, so I had to frog the whole thing. Well, this Procella shawl is turning out quite beautifully. Now the pattern itself calls again for a much lighter weight yarn and a much smaller hook size, but there was a really large range between the size of the yarn and the hook size. So I decided with this, I believe it's a 4-weight yarn, that I would use a size N or a 9mm hook. So it's pretty big. And the pattern is just a kind of a basic ripply design where you go from a single crochet to half double to double to treble to double treble, and then go back the other way so that you have a wavy kind of pattern. But I'm finding that that is working up really beautifully. And again, this is going to be gorgeous when it gets frogged out. Right now the yarn is still really crinkly from its last frogging, but I'm sure that this will be a beautifully sized shawl. I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the car this weekend, so I'm expecting that I'm going to be banging this out in a big way. I wanted a project that was not going to force me to look at a pattern, that I was going to be able to memorize easily and work it but not get bored with it. So with all the different sizes of stitches, I think this is the one for me. Now there is one more work in progress that I started, and that requires my giant vintage hero size J Tunisian or Afghan hook. And yes, I have finally cracked open Tony Lipsy's Tunisian Crochet Handbook, and I am working on the Elm slouch hat. So here's her photograph there. Now in general, I'm not really into slouchy hats. I mean, I like a beret that you can shape some, and I like a beanie, but just the straight up slouchy, not really my favorite. So I'm probably not going to do this entirely to the same scale, but I have started it. This is my first foray into Tunisian crochet, and it's the Tunisian knit stitch. And this is what I have so far. So the pattern calls for just a standard, like I think it's a size 4.5mm hook, which I don't have. I don't think Boy makes them, but I used a 4.25mm hook, and I did the hat band, and then you work Tunisian knit stitch. So interesting procedure here. It is taking some time because I'm trying to get the loops to stay on without falling off, and I want them to be loose enough where they're not curling up all the time, but I also want to make sure that they're staying on the hook. And about, they do start kind of crunching up on here. As you can see, we have some disparity in the size, but I am enjoying this process, and I am happy to find new ways to make similar designs, right? There's a lot of different ways to kind of mimic the look of knit. So am I in love with Tunisian crochet? Well, that might have to be another video. I could have done a different pattern, like a smaller pattern for my first Tunisian, but for whatever reason, this is what I decided to do. I'm going with this shocking blue, which you see in this hat here, and then I'm going to use this shocking red to go with it on top. I have these two colorways of the same yarn, and I think it'll just be a nice little trifecta to have the red hat, the blue hat, and then the red and blue hat. So last little work in progress, I asked you guys to tell me, what should my mouse hold? And a lot of people said candy cane. So technically still a work in progress because I haven't made that candy cane, but hopefully I will get to that this week. That is what I've been working on. And I am curious, what have you been working on this week? Is there anything that has really captured your creativity? Anything you're really excited about working on? Any patterns you'd like to share, or anything else that you'd like to say? I've been having a lot of fun responding to you guys' comments. Again, if you've enjoyed your time with me, thank you so much for liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. All of that stuff, again, is super encouraging because this YouTube thing, it really is kind of a fun adventure. I'm enjoying throwing these videos out into the wild and seeing what happens with them. If I am not your cup of tea, thank you so much for listening this long. I do appreciate it, and I do hope I'll see you again. Bye.